Hey everyone, Paul Johnson, Waconia, Minnesota, and the Laughing Trout Fly Tying Club. Today I'm going to be tying a pheasant tail soft hackle. So this is a great fly to have in your box from early in the spring until late in the fall. I tie it on a size 16 1XL long nymph hook. The tail and the body are pheasant tail fibers. There is a ribbing of gold wire, and I use size small on this. There is a little bit of a thorax back in there, and that is some Superbright Peacock dubbing from Wapsi. The collar is Hungarian Partridge. So let's get started here. Get the hook in my vise. For thread, I mean, you can use any color thread really. I like this red, 14-aught red. I think it shows up good when we get to tying the head of the fly. So I started with the thread about the 3/4 point, 2/3 point on the hook. Wrap back to the bend of the hook, and I'll clip off the excess there. Now for the tail and the body, I've got 8 pheasant tail fibers. Count them off, so each one I tie is the same. I want that to be no longer than the hook shank in length. A little bit shorter than that is fine too. That's borderline too long, but we're going to go with that. So we're just going to make a few wraps of tying thread there. Next, I've got a length of gold wire. And I'm just going to make one wrap with that wire there at the original tie-in point. And I'll come underneath and then I'll further secure that wire to the hook shank, advancing my thread up to that 3/4 point, I guess, on the hook shank. Throw a 1/2 hitch knot in there. Spin my bobbin cradle around. I'm going to use my rotary feature on the vise. First wrap, I always seem to do just overhand, get it exactly where I want it. And this I know gets a little bit wonky with the camera. We're just going to advance that pheasant tail up to about that 3/4 point. Keep good hold of it. We don't want to drop it at this point. Let it go. Secure that with some wraps of thread. Come there and clip that off the excess. Then the wire, I'm going to counter wrap it. Seems to be about 6 wraps of wire. And I'll secure that with my tying thread. And you can helicopter that off, or I just sometimes think it's easier to come in with the fingernail clippers and cut it off. All right, so now I've got some of that Superbright Peacock dubbing. I like this a lot better than Ice Dub. Ice Dub is so coarse. It's hard to get a little bit of a dubbing ball with that. So I really like the colors of this Superbright Peacock dubbing. If you watched any of my other tying videos, you've seen I use this stuff quite a bit. So we're just going to try to build up a little bit of a thorax there. And if you got straggly fibers hanging out, that's great. It's not going to hurt anything. So then I have a Hungarian partridge feather. I've already pulled the fuzzies off. And then what I like to do is grab the tips with the tweezers. And then I can pull that back, and that's where I'm going to tie that in. And then I'm going to fold that feather back and tie those tips in. You can cut that off, handle that however you want. So now I'm going to grab that feather with my hackle pliers. I'm not really a snob with fly tying tools, but I've got one of these CNF design hackle pliers, and they're outrageously expensive, but it's one of the tying tools that I think is just worth its money. To buy one. You have it, you take care of it, you're going to have it for a long time. So I made about 2 wraps. And I'm going to come behind the feather. And then I'm going to come in front of the feather with my tying thread. And I've said this on other ones too. If you have a Renzetti type vise, hang that bobbin from behind the attention knob. And that'll keep the thread tension back. And then we can come in and clip off that feather. I'm just going to come in here and grab all those feathers, the fibers of the feather, pull them back, and then come in with my tying thread and form that head on the fly. A couple of them they're being a little difficult, but we'll get them under control. So now this is where that red thread I think shows up nicely. So we're just going to form a pretty good head with that tying thread. Come in here and do a whip finish. And that's the finished fly. I'll come back now after I'm done with the video and put a little bit of UV resin, or you can use Sally Hansen's, and touch up that head. It gives it a nice shiny head. Now I've fished this fly a little bit different than some people do. I'll put this below a weighted nymph. So I typically have an indicator and then a weighted beadhead type nymph, like a Prince nymph, one of my purple Prince Charming, something like that. And then about 18 to 20 inches, 24 inches below that fly, I'll tie this one on. Most people are just going to fish this down and across, let it swing in the current. But I kind of do that same thing underneath a weighted nymph, and always let it pull tight, just like you would fishing just a soft hackle. So hope you enjoyed it, and give it a try. Thanks.